heart of the rugged Oregon frontier, nestled among the whispering pines and the vast open skies, lay the small logging town of Paulina. This was a place where the spirit of the Wild West thrived, where men and women carved a life out of the untamed wilderness with nothing but their sweat, their faith, and their unbreakable will. Among these hardy souls was a man known far and wide for his wisdom, his courage, and his mysterious ability to heal and to speak truths that stirred the heart. His name was Wrangler, a name that, like the durable fabric, symbolized his strength and reliability. Wrangler, a man of humble beginnings, was a logger by trade but a preacher by calling. He wandered the forests and the towns from Beaver Marsh to Silver Lake, speaking in parables that were as deep and fathomable as the lakes that dotted the landscape. His words, like the gentle flow of the rivers, carved through the hard exteriors of the most rugged frontiersmen and women, revealing the soft, fertile ground beneath. One day, as Wrangler walked the dusty streets of Paulina, he came upon a gathering by the town's saloon. The air was thick with tension, the scent of whiskey, and the unmistakable aroma of cannabis, considered sacred by many for its healing and enlightening properties. At the center of the crowd stood two men, pistols at their hips, their faces set in grim determination. The dispute, as many were in those days, was over land that was as precious as life itself in the Wild West. Wrangler, with a calm that belied the intensity of the situation, stepped between the two men. "What good is land?" he asked, his voice carrying over the crowd. "If you lose your soul in the process of claiming it, for what can a man give in return for his soul?" The crowd fell silent, the words echoing off the wooden facades of the saloon and the general store, penetrating the hearts of all who heard. The gunslingers, moved by Wrangler's words, holstered their pistols. The dispute was forgotten, replaced by a sense of brotherhood and unity that had been missing before Wrangler's intervention. From that day forward, Wrangler's fame grew and his following increased. Men named Carhart, Toughskin, and Levi joined him, drawn by the promise of redemption and the allure of a life led by higher principles. Wrangler's teachings were not confined to the resolution of disputes. He spoke of a kingdom not of this world, a kingdom of justice, peace, and love that transcended the harsh realities of frontier life. He performed acts that some called miracles, healing the sick with a touch, a word, or a look, using the bountiful herbs and plants that the land provided, including the sacred cannabis. Yet, not all welcomed Levy's message. The town's sheriff, a man named Rustler, viewed Wrangler's growing influence with suspicion and fear. Rustler, who had maintained order in Paulina through a combination of strength and intimidation, saw Wrangler as a threat to his authority. The sheriff plotted to silence Wrangler, to preserve his own power, and to prevent the spread of this new, unsettling gospel that spoke of turning the other cheek and of loving one's enemy. Wrangler, aware of the danger, but undeterred, continued to preach and to heal, to share his vision of a better world. He knew that his path would lead him through trials and tribulations, that he would face opposition from those who could not understand or accept his message. But he also knew that his journey was not just his own. It was a journey shared by all who dared to dream of a world defined not by the law of the gun, but by the law of love. As the sun set over Paulina, casting long shadows across the land, Wrangler sat by a campfire outside the town, surrounded by his closest followers. The fire crackled and sparked, illuminating their faces with a warm, flickering light. Wrangler spoke to them of the days to come, of the challenges they would face, and of the faith that would see them through. Chapter 2. In the wake of Wrangler's burgeoning influence across the rugged landscapes of Oregon, tales of his teachings and miracles had spread like wildfire, igniting hope in the hearts of many. As Wrangler journeyed further, he arrived at Silver Lake, a town known for its mining endeavors and for a certain establishment that drew the weary, the troubled, and those seeking solace in less savory pleasures. It was here that Maria's story intertwined with Wrangler's, marking the next chapter in the saga inspired by the Gospel of Mark. Maria, a woman of striking beauty and sharp wit, found herself ensnared in the life of the brothel, a place where hope seemed as scarce as the gold the miners toiled day and night to unearth. Despite her circumstances, Maria possessed a spirit unbroken, a flicker of defiance that no hardship could extinguish. Yet her resilience had earned her the ire of her overseer, a man as ruthless as he was cunning. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fire and blood, Wrangler and his followers, including Carhart, Toughskin, and Levi, arrived in Silver Lake. Drawn by tales of a woman in need of salvation, Wrangler made his way to the brothel, his presence commanding the attention of all who beheld him. As Wrangler entered, he found Maria cornered by her overseer, the air thick with tension and the imminent threat of violence. Without a word, Wrangler stepped forward, his gaze locking with that of the overseer. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of the power Wrangler wielded, not through force, but through the undeniable authority of his spirit. "Let her go," Wrangler commanded, his voice calm yet firm, resonating with an authority that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. The overseer, though a man of considerable strength and cruelty, found himself compelled to obey, releasing Maria and stepping back as if pushed by an unseen force. Maria, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder, looked upon Wrangler, seeing in him not just a savior from her immediate plight, but a beacon of hope in a world that had offered her little. Wrangler extended his hand to her, and as she took it, the onlookers witnessed a transformation. Maria stood, not as a woman defined by her circumstances, but as a person of dignity and strength, reborn in the light of compassion and understanding. Wrangler spoke to the gathered crowd, his words weaving a message of forgiveness, of redemption, and of the boundless capacity for change that lies within each heart. He spoke of a kingdom where love and mercy reigned, where the chains of the past were broken by the power of grace. As Wrangler and his followers left Silver Lake, Maria among them, the town was abuzz with talk of the miracle that had occurred. Yet what had transpired was no mere magic, but the manifestation of a profound truth, that within every soul lies the potential for transformation, for liberation from the shadows that ensnare us. Chapter 3. As Wrangler's teachings and the tales of his miracles continued to weave through the towns and wilderness of Oregon, his journey led him and his followers to the majestic expanse surrounding Crater Lake. This was a land of stark contrasts where the serene beauty of the lake, formed by the collapse of an ancient volcano, coexisted with the harsh realities of frontier life. It was here, amid the awe-inspiring natural wonders and the ever-present dangers of wildfires, that Wrangler chose to share the next chapter of his message, one inspired by the third gospel. Crater Lake, with its crystal-clear waters reflecting the sky above, served as a backdrop for Wrangler's teachings on the importance of inner purity and reflection. He spoke of the lake as a mirror for the soul, inviting his listeners to gaze into its depths and see the truth of their own hearts reflected back at them. This message of introspection and the pursuit of spiritual clarity resonated deeply with those who had come to regard the wilderness not just as a place of physical challenge, but as a crucible for the forging of character and faith. Wrangler's presence in the area attracted not only those seeking spiritual guidance, but also those drawn by the promise of adventure and the abundance of natural resources. Hunters, trappers, and fishermen, drawn by the plentiful game and fish that thrived in the forests and streams, found in Wrangler a kindred spirit, a man who understood the deep connection between humanity and the natural world. One day, as wildfires raged near the outskirts of a nearby settlement, threatening to consume everything in their path, Wrangler and his followers, among them Maria, now a devoted disciple, sprang into action. Guided by Wrangler's calm resolve, they joined the community's efforts to combat the flames, working alongside the men and women who fought to protect their homes and livelihoods. In the midst of this chaos, Wrangler found opportunities to demonstrate the power of faith and the importance of unity in the face of adversity. He spoke of the fires not as mere physical threats, but as symbols of the trials and tribulations that all must face on their journey through life. Just as the community came together to fight the fire, so too must individuals unite in the face of life's challenges, supporting one another with compassion and understanding. As the flames were finally quelled, and the people of the settlement gathered to give thanks for their deliverance, Wrangler used the occasion to share a parable about the phoenix, a mythical bird that is said to rise anew from the ashes of its predecessor. He likened the community's resilience and renewed spirit to the rebirth of the phoenix, reminding them that from the ashes of hardship and loss can come strength, renewal, and a deeper appreciation for the gift of life. Wrangler's time at Crater Lake and the surrounding wilderness underscored his message of hope, redemption, and the indomitable spirit of humanity when faced with the vast, untamed beauty of the Wild West. It was a chapter in his journey that would be remembered not just for the teachings he shared, but for the example he set, living his beliefs through actions that spoke as loudly as his words. Chapter 5. In the evolving saga of Wrangler and his followers, their journey took them next to the bustling town of Crescent, nestled on the edge of dense forests teeming with game and crisscrossed by rivers rich with fish. Crescent was a hub for hunters, trappers, and fishermen drawn by the promise of abundant resources. Yet it was here, amid the bounty of the wilderness, that Wrangler chose to impart a crucial lesson on stewardship and the delicate balance of nature, inspired by the fourth Gospel of Mark. As autumn painted the leaves in fiery hues and the air turned crisp with the promise of winter, Wrangler gathered the people of Crescent and the surrounding areas, not just to share his teachings, but to address a growing concern. The land, generous though it was, bore the scars of overuse. Game, once plentiful, had begun to dwindle, and the rivers, though still flowing, carried fewer fish each season. Wrangler saw in this not just a threat to the livelihoods of many, but an opportunity to teach a deeper respect for the natural world. Wrangler spoke of the land and its creatures not as mere resources to be exploited, but as sacred gifts to be cherished and preserved. He told parables of ancient times when the land was untouched by man, teeming with life in a perfect balance. He drew parallels between these stories and the teachings of the gospel, emphasizing the importance of humility, gratitude, and the responsibility of each individual to care for the earth as a steward, not a conqueror. Inspired by Wrangler's words, the hunters, trappers, and fishermen of Crescent began to change their ways. They instituted measures to limit their take, ensuring that they harvested only what they needed and that they did so in ways that allowed the animal populations to replenish. They learned to read the signs of the land, to understand the ebb and flow of the seasons, and to adjust their practices accordingly. This shift was not easy, for it required not just a change in behavior, but a transformation in mindset. Yet the results were undeniable. Slowly, the balance began to return. Game became more plentiful, and the rivers teemed with life once more. Wrangler's teachings spread beyond Crescent, carried by the wind and the water, by the people who had heard his message and taken it to heart. Tales of his wisdom and the miracles he performed reached the far corners of the frontier, inspiring others to view the world around them with new eyes. One particularly poignant tale that emerged from this period involved a confrontation between Wrangler and a group of men who sought to challenge his teachings. These men, hardened by the harsh realities of frontier life, saw Wrangler's message of conservation and respect for nature as a threat to their way of life. They confronted Wrangler, demanding proof of his authority, a sign that his teachings were indeed divinely inspired. Wrangler, undaunted, invited them to follow him into the wilderness, to a place where the land bore the scars of overhunting and neglect. There he asked them to observe, to listen, to truly see the world around them. As they watched, a deer emerged from the forest, its cautious steps betraying its awareness of the humans in its midst. Wrangler approached the deer, speaking softly, words lost to the wind, but felt in the hearts of those who watched. The deer, unafraid, allowed Wrangler to touch it, a moment of connection that transcended the boundaries between man and nature. To the men who had challenged him, this was the sign they had sought, a demonstration of the sacred bond between all living things and the power of respect and understanding. They left, changed by what they had witnessed, their hearts open to the possibility of a world where man and nature could coexist in harmony. Wrangler's time in Crescent and the lessons he shared there became a cornerstone of his teachings, a reminder of the interconnectedness of all life and the responsibility each person bears to protect and preserve the world for future generations. His journey, inspired by the Gospels and brought to life in the Wild West, continued to inspire, to challenge, and to offer hope to all who heard his message. Chapter 6. As the saga of Wrangler and his followers continued to unfold against the backdrop of the Oregon frontier, their journey brought them to the edge of winter, where the towns of Fort Rock and Beaver Marsh lay shrouded in the anticipation of snowstorms that could isolate them from the world for months. It was a time when the spirit of the community was tested, when the warmth of a fire and the strength of one's neighbors became the difference between survival and despair. In this setting, Wrangler chose to share the teachings of the sixth Gospel of Mark, weaving his message into the fabric of daily life, where the challenges of the Wild West were ever present. This part of his journey was marked by encounters that highlighted the complexities of human nature and the transformative power of faith and understanding.
As the first snowflakes of the season began to fall, a dispute erupted in Fort Rock that threatened to tear the community apart. A cattle stampede, sparked by a careless gunshot, had led to losses for many of the town's ranchers. Tempers flared and fingers were pointed, with accusations flying like the swirling snow. At the heart of the conflict were two men, known gunslingers who had turned to ranching, Wrangler and James "Rustler" Carhart, each blaming the other for the disaster.
Wrangler, upon hearing of the brewing storm, sought out Strauss and Carhart, finding them in the town's saloon, a place that smelled of tobacco and whiskey, where the tension was as thick as the smoke that hung in the air. With the entire town gathered, Levi spoke of forgiveness and the folly of division, using parables that echoed the struggles they all faced. He talked of a shepherd who sought out a single lost sheep, valuing unity over pride. His words, delivered with the calm certainty that had come to define him, stilled the heated arguments and opened a path to reconciliation. In the days that followed, Wrangler's teachings on community and coexistence found fertile ground. The townsfolk of Fort Rock and Beaver Marsh began to come together in ways they hadn't before, sharing resources and stories, strengthening their bonds against the challenges of the frontier. Levi encouraged them to listen to the wisdom of the Native Americans, whose knowledge of the land and its rhythms could teach them much about living in harmony with nature. Wrangler and his followers, including Maria Magdalena, who had found a new purpose under his guidance, worked alongside the Native Americans, learning their ways of hunting that respected the balance of the ecosystem, and their methods of logging that preserved the health of the forest. These lessons became a testament to the power of unity and respect across cultures. The winter deepened, bringing with it the hardships of cold and isolation, but also the beauty of a world blanketed in white. Wrangler used this time to deepen the community's understanding of faith, speaking of the trials of the prophets and the endurance of the Spirit. When a snowstorm trapped them in Beaver Marsh, Wrangler's presence turned what could have been a time of despair into one of reflection and growth. As spring finally broke through the snow, the people of Fort Rock and Beaver Marsh emerged stronger, more united. They had faced the storms of winter, both literal and metaphorical, guided by Wrangler's teachings and the sixth Gospel of Mark. The lessons of this time would not be easily forgotten, serving as a beacon for the journey ahead, a journey that continued to unfold with each step Wrangler took, each word he spoke, and each life he touched. Chapter 7. As spring ushered in renewal across the rugged landscapes of Oregon, Wrangler and his eclectic band of followers, now a harmonious blend of frontiersmen, Native Americans, and reformed gunslingers, ventured toward the remote town of Silver Lake, renowned for its reflective waters and the promise of new beginnings. This season marked the beginning of the seventh Gospel of Mark and their ongoing saga, a chapter that would weave together all the elements of the Wild West with the profound teachings Wrangler sought to impart. Silver Lake, emerging from the grip of winter, buzzed with activity. The town, a crucible of frontier life, was alive with the sounds of construction as the community worked to expand their settlement, anticipating the growth that the end of a harsh winter promised. Amid this backdrop of hope and industry, Wrangler found fertile ground for his next teachings, which emphasized the principles of renewal, community effort, and the stewardship of the earth's bounty. Drawing upon the vibrant life around Silver Lake, Wrangler spoke of the parable of the sower, reimagined for the ears of those who lived by the land. He likened the word of faith to seeds scattered across the ground, some falling on fertile soil, others on rocky paths or among thorns. He used the landscape itself as a metaphor, pointing to the lush forests that bordered the town, the fields ready for planting, and the clear waters teeming with fish. Wrangler's message was clear. Like the earth, the heart must be tended with care, prepared to receive the seeds of faith, so they might grow and flourish. The challenges of frontier life, wildfires, cattle stampedes, and the ever-present threat of isolation due to snowstorms served as the backdrop for Wrangler's teachings on resilience and mutual support. He urged the people of Silver Lake to look beyond the immediate struggles, to see the trials as opportunities to strengthen their bonds, and to forge a community that could withstand any adversity. Wrangler's influence extended beyond the spiritual. inspiring practical changes within the community. Encouraged by his message of conservation and respect for nature, the townsfolk adopted sustainable hunting and fishing practices, learning from the Native Americans who had lived in harmony with the land for generations. These practices ensured that the game remained plentiful and the waters of Silver Lake continued to nourish life. As the narrative unfolded, Wrangler and his followers encountered a group of weary travelers, miners who had ventured too deep into the mountains in search of wealth, only to be disillusioned by the harsh realities they faced. Wrangler welcomed them, sharing stories of treasure not found in the earth, but within one's soul. In a gesture that mirrored the communal feasts of old, the people of Silver Lake came together to host a grand meal where whiskey flowed, not as a means to forget, but to celebrate life and community. The event became a testament to the transformative power of hospitality and the sharing of one's bounty. The presence of Maria, once a figure of scandal, but now a symbol of redemption and grace, alongside Wrangler throughout his teachings, served as a living example of the power of change and the possibility of a new life. Her story, interwoven with the teachings of Wrangler, underscored the message that no one was beyond the reach of compassion and renewal. The seventh Gospel of Mark, as told through the lens of Wrangler's journey across the Oregon frontier, closed with the community of Silver Lake standing at the water's edge, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and purple. In this moment of collective reflection, they understood that the Gospel was not just a series of teachings to be heard, but a call to action, a guide for living in harmony with the land and each other. The stories of their lives, marked by the trials and triumphs of the Wild West, were now part of a larger narrative, one that spoke of faith, resilience, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Chapter 8. In the shadow of the Cascade Mountains, where the echoes of the Oregon Trail's pioneers still whispered through the towering pines, lay Sparks Lake, a bustling town carved out of the wilderness by loggers, miners, hunters, and fishermen. Here, the rugged individualism of the West met the ancient wisdom of the Native Americans, creating a unique tapestry of survival, trade, and lore. Wrangler, with his companions Lee and Carhart, had made their way to Sparks Lake, drawn by tales of its burgeoning growth and the promise it held for spreading their message. The town, a blend of frontier roughness and emerging community, was ripe with the spirit of the West's saloons brimming with whiskey and tales of fortune, bustling brothels, and the ever-present sound of axe and saw cutting through the forest. Yet, amidst this clamor of progress, a quieter exchange flourished between the townsfolk and the Native Americans, a trade that wove together the lives of two vastly different cultures. The Native Americans, with their deep understanding of the land, traded cannabis, tobacco, and finely crafted animal furs with the settlers. These goods, prized for their quality and rarity, became the lifeblood of an economy that stretched beyond the mere survival in the wilderness. The cannabis, known for its soothing properties, found favor among the miners and loggers, weary from their toils, while tobacco became a staple of camaraderie, shared around campfires and in the dim corners of saloons. Animal furs, soft and warm, were sought after by all as the harsh winters approached, a luxury that brought a touch of comfort to the rugged life of the frontier. As these trades took place, the Native Americans would share stories of the land, enriching the settlers' understanding of their new home. One tale in particular captivated the imagination of all who heard it, the myth of Crater Lake's creation. They spoke of a great battle between Lau, the chief of the below world, and Skell, the chief of the above world, which tore the earth asunder, leaving behind a crater that filled with tears from the heavens, creating the deep blue lake. This story, a testament to the land's power and mystery, served as a reminder of the respect it demanded from those who sought to claim it as their own. But life in Sparks Lake was not without its perils. The town, for all its promise, attracted gunslingers and outlaws, drawn by tales of wealth and the opportunity to exploit. Fights would often erupt in the saloons, quick draws and flying fists settling disputes over gold, land, or honor. Wrangler, though a man of peace, found himself standing against such lawlessness, his reputation as a quick draw and a fair man earning him a grudging respect even among the most hardened of outlaws. The challenges of frontier life were relentless wildfires, sparked by a careless campfire or a lightning strike, would rage through the forests, threatening to consume everything in their path. Cattle stampedes, spooked by the slightest provocation, could trample crops and fences, leaving a trail of destruction. Yet, through these trials, the community of Sparks Lake, guided by Wrangler's teachings, learned the value of unity and resilience. They banded together to fight the fires, save their homes, and recover from the stampedes, each challenge forging stronger bonds among them. Wrangler's influence extended beyond the physical to the moral fabric of Sparks Lake. He spoke against the exploitation inherent in brothels and gambling dens, advocating for respect and dignity for all. His words, though met with resistance by some, sparked a change in others, leading to a gradual shift in how the town addressed its moral dilemmas. In the midst of these struggles and victories, the story of Sparks Lake unfolded, a chapter marked by the mingling of cultures, the harsh realities of frontier life, and the enduring spirit of its people. Wrangler, Lee, and Carhart, through their actions and teachings, became the embodiment of this spirit, a beacon of faith, hope, and resilience in the wild heart of Oregon. As the sun set behind the Cascade Mountains, casting long shadows over Sparks Lake, the town stood as a testament to the trials and triumphs of the frontier. In the stories shared around the fireside, in the goods traded with respect and understanding, and in the challenges faced together, the spirit of the 8th chapter of Mark lived on, a guide to living in harmony with the land and each other. And so, Wrangler and his companions, under the vast Oregon sky, continued their journey, their hearts and spirits intertwined with the fate of Sparks Lake, a chapter in their saga not soon to be forgotten. The Wild West, with its blend of danger, beauty, and opportunity, forged not just a community, but a legacy, one that echoed the timeless teachings of faith, provision, and understanding, a beacon for all who dared to venture into the great unknown. Chapter 9. In the heart of the Cascade Kush Mountains, among the towering pines and rugged landscapes carved by time and the elements, lay a network of towns each with its own story. Sparks Lake, Elk Lake, Devil's Lake, Crescent Lake, and Todd Lake were beacons of civilization amidst the untamed wilderness, connected by the Oregon Trail and a shared spirit of resilience and discovery. Wrangler, alongside his companions Lee, Carhart, Jeramballs, the wise woodcutter, Durbin, and the brothers Cheech and Chong, ventured through these towns, spreading teachings of faith, understanding, and unity. Their journey was marked by encounters that bridged the divide between settlers and Native Americans, fostering a mutual respect grounded in trade and the sharing of knowledge. Cannabis and tobacco, traded freely, became symbols of this newfound harmony, while animal furs symbolized the respect for the wilderness that sustained them all. The Native Americans, guardians of the land's lore, shared stories of the mountains, tales of spirits that roamed the forests and lakes. of battles fought and reconciliations won, of the earth's deep wisdom. These stories, passed down through generations, spoke of a connection to the land that was both sacred and vital, a bond that Wrangler and his followers sought to understand and honor. One night, under the starlit sky near the serene waters of Crescent Lake, the group gathered around a roaring fire, the air filled with the soft murmur of the forest. The Native Americans spoke of a vision quest, a journey of the spirit that offered guidance and clarity to those who sought it. Intrigued, Wrangler and his companions listened intently, their minds open to the teachings of the land. As they embarked on this spiritual journey, guided by the wisdom of their Native American friends, they encountered visions that challenged and expanded their understanding. These visions, though personal and varied, shared a common theme: the interconnectedness of all life and the importance of living in harmony with the earth and each other. The teachings of Wrangler, enriched by these experiences, took on a new depth. He spoke of the importance of community, of supporting one another through trials, of the strength found in unity. He preached respect for the land, advocating for good ethics in animal husbandry and the stewardship of nature's bounty. The towns, once isolated points of light in the vast wilderness, grew closer, their inhabitants bonded by shared experiences and mutual respect. Racism and prejudice, though not eradicated, were challenged by the growing sense of community and the understanding that, beneath the surface, all were united by common hopes, fears, and dreams. As Wrangler and his companions continued their journey through the Cascade Kush Mountains, their message spread, touching the lives of loggers, miners, hunters, fishermen, and the Native Americans who had called this land home long before the trails were blazed. Each town, Sparks Lake, Elk Lake, Devil's Lake, Crescent Lake, Todd Lake, became a testament to the power of faith, the importance of community, and the transformative nature of understanding and respect. The saga of Wrangler and his followers, set against the backdrop of Oregon's majestic landscape, became a legend in its own right, a story of the Wild West that went beyond the tales of gunslingers, whiskey, and gold. It was a story of the human spirit, of the quest for meaning and connection, and of the eternal dance between humanity and the natural world. Chapter 10. As autumn's golden hue blankets the landscape, a sense of change permeates Elk Lake. Wrangler, known for his wisdom and unwavering spirit, finds the town in the throes of conflict. Toughskin, a notorious rustler whose name evokes both fear and respect, has been driving a wedge between the settlers and the Native American tribes, exploiting tensions for his own gain. Meanwhile, Strauss, a merchant known for his cunning business acumen, has been monopolizing the trade routes, squeezing the lifeblood from the local trappers and miners. The air in Elk Lake is thick with anticipation as Wrangler and his companions arrive, their reputation as peacemakers and champions of the downtrodden preceding them. They find the town's saloons and meeting halls abuzz with talk of Toughskin's latest exploits and Strauss's tightening grip on the economy. It's clear to Wrangler that Elk Lake stands at a crossroads, its future hanging in the balance between division and unity. Drawing from the teachings of the 10th chapter of Mark, Wrangler decides to address the heart of the conflict. He speaks of service and leadership, reminding the townsfolk that true greatness comes not from dominion over others, but from serving them. In a style reminiscent of Louis Alamer, he weaves tales of the rugged mountains, the endless trails, and the indomitable spirit of those who traverse them, drawing parallels to their current strife. One evening, under a starlit sky, Wrangler gathers the town at the edge of Elk Lake. With the serene waters reflecting the firelight, he shares the story of a young rustler who, much like Toughskin, sought wealth and power at the expense of others. Yet through a journey of hardship and redemption, this rustler came to realize that true wealth lay in community, in the bonds forged through shared struggle, and in the peace found in reconciliation. Moved by Wrangler's words, the people of Elk Lake begin to see Toughskin and Strauss in a new light. Discussions replace disputes, and slowly the town starts to heal. Toughskin, confronted with the impact of his actions, begins to question his path, while Strauss, challenged by Wrangler's teachings, reevaluates his business practices, opening up his trade routes to benefit all of Elk Lake. As autumn wanes and winter whispers on the horizon, Elk Lake emerges stronger, a community united by newfound trust and cooperation. Wrangler and his companions, seeing their work come to fruition, prepare to leave, their hearts warmed by the knowledge that Elk Lake stands as a beacon of hope and resilience. Yet their journey is far from over. The Cascade Mountains, with their hidden valleys and secret trails, call to them, promising new adventures and new challenges. As they ride out, the legacy of their time in Elk Lake lingers, a testament to the power of faith, the strength of community, and the enduring spirit of the Wild West. Chapter 11. As the leaves began their fiery transformation, signaling the onset of fall in the Oregon Cascades, the town of Timber Ridge braced for the annual Harvest Fest, a tradition that drew folks from every corner of the wilderness from Elk Lake to the shadowy banks of Crescent Lake. This year, however, the harvest held a deeper significance, for Wrangler, a man of dual heritage and boundless wisdom, had promised a ceremony unlike any before, blending the traditions of his Native American ancestors with those of the settlers who had come to call this rugged land home. Wrangler, with his keen blue eyes reflecting the vast Oregon sky, and his long hair braided in the style of his mother's people, rode into Timber Ridge on a horse as untamed as the land itself. Accompanied by his loyal companions Leah Carhart, Jeramballs the wise woodcutter, and the ever-comical duo Cheech and Chong, Wrangler's arrival turned heads and set tongues wagging with anticipation. The town, usually a place where the clang of the blacksmith's hammer and the sawmill's steady drone dominated, was now abuzz with preparations for the fest. But this year, along with the bountiful tables of venison, trout, and freshly baked bread, there would be a new addition. Wrangler had introduced the community to the cultivation of cannabis, a plant with deep spiritual significance for his people, used in ceremonies to promote healing, understanding, and unity. As the harvest moon rose, casting its silvery glow over Timber Ridge, the townsfolk gathered around a great bonfire, its flames dancing like the spirits of the land. Wrangler stood before them, a figure of calm authority, flanked by the colorful personalities of Timber Ridge and the wise elders of the nearby tribes. With this harvest, we celebrate not just the fruits of the earth, Wrangler began, his voice carrying over the assembled crowd, but the seeds of understanding we've planted among us. Tonight, as we blend the smoke of the cannabis with the frankincense, we burn not just for pleasure, but for insight, for healing, and for the unity of all our spirits. The ceremony was a sight to behold. Wrangler, with a flair for the dramatic, had mixed the cannabis and frankincense in a large, ornate bowl carved from the wood of the mighty pines that stood sentinel over the Cascades. As the mixture smoldered, producing an aromatic smoke that swirled in intricate patterns against the night sky, the townsfolk and their Native American brethren stood in silent reverence, their differences momentarily forgotten in the shared experience. But Wrangler's ceremony was more than just smoke and silence. With a wit as sharp as the blade he carried at his side, he regaled the gathering with tales of the Cascades, stories of mischievous spirits, of legendary beasts, and of heroes who walked the line between worlds. Narrative was peppered with clever insights and humorous asides, particularly about his companion's antics, which never failed to draw laughter from the crowd. Take heed of the tale of Cheech and Chong, who ventured deep into the forest in search of the mythical Cascade Kush, Wrangler teased, casting a sly glance at his friends. They sought wisdom, but found themselves hopelessly lost, only to be saved by a bear who, I suspect, was more amused than hungry. The laughter that followed was a testament to Wrangler's skill as a storyteller, his ability to weave humor and wisdom into the fabric of the night's festivities. Yet, as the laughter died down, he brought the focus back to the deeper meaning of their gathering. Let this ceremony remind us that we are all part of a greater story, one that binds us to the land and to each other, he continued, his tone now solemn. In the smoke of the cannabis and frankincense, let us see the dreams of our ancestors and the hopes for our children. Let us remember that, though we come from different paths, we share one journey. The ceremony concluded with a feast that lasted well into the night, a celebration of the harvest, of community, and of the bonds forged in the heart of the Oregon wilderness. Wrangler, with his unique heritage and his message of unity, had drawn the people of Timber Ridge and the surrounding lands closer, bridging worlds with the wisdom of his words and the warmth of his spirit. As the first light of dawn touched the peaks of the Cascades, Wrangler and his companions prepared to depart, their journey far from over. Timber Ridge, with its laughter and newfound friendships, would remain a cherished memory, a beacon of light in the wild expanse of the frontier. And so, our tale of Chapter 11 unfolds, a story rich in the traditions of the West, in the wisdom of ancient ceremonies, and in the enduring spirit of community. Wrangler, a man of two worlds, continues his journey through the rugged beauty of Oregon, his message of faith, unity, and understanding echoing in the hearts of all who hear it. Chapter 12. In the shadow of the Cascade Mountains, where the whispers of the pines and the rush of the wind tell tales of old, the story of Three-Finger Jack unfolds, a narrative woven into the fabric of the frontier just as intricately as the ridges that define the rugged landscape. This tale, inspired by the teachings of Chapter 12 in the Gospel of Mark, finds its roots in the simple yet arduous life of firewood cutting, a trade that tested the mettle of the men who called these mountains home. Three-Finger Jack, named for the stark evidence of a sacrifice born of necessity, was a figure of legend, not for the gold he sought, but for the warmth he provided. In a land where winter's grip could tighten without warning, the work of a woodcutter was as vital as the air they breathed. Jack, with his unmatched skill and a work ethic as steadfast as the mountains themselves, was a lifeline to the settlers and homesteaders scattered throughout the Oregon Cascades. The story of how Jack came to lose two of his fingers was as much a testament to his character as it was a harrowing tale of survival. Deep in the heart of the forest, with winter's first snow blanketing the ground, Jack had been cutting firewood, the steady rhythm of his axe echoing through the trees. It was then that disaster struck a slip, a sharp blade, and in an instant, Jack's life changed forever. Alone, far from help, Jack faced a choice that would define him. With his hand badly injured and no chance of immediate aid, Jack did the unthinkable. Using what tools he had, He made the excruciating choice to sacrifice his fingers to save himself from a worse fate. This act of self-reliance and sheer will to survive made him a legend, but it was what he chose to do afterward that made him a hero. Found by Wrangler and his companions, weary and weakened, but with his spirit unbroken, Jack was taken under their wing. Wrangler, a man of deep faith and boundless compassion, saw in Jack not just a survivor, but a symbol of the perseverance and sacrifice that he sought to teach. Wrangler's own mission, inspired by the teachings of Jesus, was to spread a message of love, sacrifice, and the true meaning of wealth, not as the world sees it, but as measured by the depth of one's heart and the strength of one's spirit. Jack, embracing this new purpose, became an integral part of Wrangler's community. His story a living parable shared around campfires and in the homes of those they helped. He spoke not of loss, but of what he had gained in understanding that the measure of a man is not in what he takes, but in what he gives. As the months passed, Jack's influence grew. The mountain that bore his name became a beacon for those seeking wisdom and refuge. Three-Finger Jack was no longer just a man, but a symbol of the enduring human spirit, of the sacrifices made for the sake of others, and of the unity that comes from shared hardship and mutual support. A community inspired by Jack's example and Wrangler's teachings began to see their work, cutting and gathering firewood, not as mere labor, but as a service to one another, a vital contribution to the collective well-being. They worked not for personal gain, but for the common good, ensuring that no family would suffer the cold's embrace. This shift in perspective from individual to communal well-being mirrored the teachings of chapter 12 of Mark, where Jesus speaks of the greatest commandment to love God and to love one's neighbor as oneself. In the heart of the Oregon wilderness, these words found new life, embodied in the actions of a community united by faith, love, and the indomitable will to survive. As winter once again laid its blanket over the land, the people of the Cascades gathered to share in the warmth of the firewood they had collected, each log a testament to their shared sacrifice and commitment to one another. And as they looked upon the silhouette of Three-Finger Jack against the winter sky, they were reminded of the lessons learned that true wealth lies in giving, that strength is found in unity, and that even the deepest wounds can bear the greatest gifts. Thus, the story of Three-Finger Jack, interwoven with the teachings of Wrangler, became a chapter in the Gospel of the Cascades, a narrative of faith, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond of community. It was a story passed down through generations, a legacy of the spirit and determination that defined the frontier, and a reminder that in the end, we are all called to be keepers of the flame. Chapter 13. In the heart of the Cascade Mountains, where the whispers of the past and the breath of the wild mingle, our tale of Chapter 13 unfolds, a saga of faith, foresight, and the enduring bond between man and the mysteries of the wilderness. This chapter, inspired by the profound teachings of the Gospel of Mark, brings to life a story of vigilance, revelation, and unity in the face of unseen challenges, featuring Wrangler, Timothy, and an encounter with the legendary Bigfoot, known among the native tribes as the guardian of the mountains. Timothy, a fur trapper whose spirit was as vast as the Oregon wilds, had been gifted a vision that promised to change the course of the winter months for the isolated communities of the Cascades. This vision, revealed to him through the sacred ritual of consuming medicinal cannabis, showed him standing sideways on a single wide board, gliding with grace over the snow. This revelation was not just a breakthrough in traversing the snow-covered expanses, it was a sign of a deeper connection to the land and its ancient guardians. Eager to share this vision with Wrangler, Timothy found him as the first light of dawn kissed the peaks of the mountains. Together, they crafted the first snowboard from the sturdy firs, a symbol of man's harmony with nature and a testament to the innovation born of faith and friendship. But the mountains held secrets beyond the reach of man's understanding. And as Wrangler and Timothy prepared to traverse the great snowfields to spread their message of hope and resilience, they were met with a challenge as old as the legends whispered around the firesides of both settlers and native tribes. The guardian of the mountains, Bigfoot, a being as enigmatic as the wilderness itself, stood before them, a symbol of the untamed world that lay beyond the bounds of human settlements. The encounter with Bigfoot was not just a test of courage, it was a trial of faith. The Gospel of Mark chapter 13 speaks of the need for vigilance, for the readiness to face the unknown with a spirit of perseverance and trust in divine guidance. Wrangler, embodying these teachings, stood before Bigfoot not as a conqueror, but as a seeker of understanding, his heart open to the lessons the guardian of the mountains might impart. As the silent standoff unfolded, Timothy, recalling his vision, realized that Bigfoot was not an adversary, but a protector, a being tasked with guarding the sacredness of the wilderness and the balance between man and nature. The snowboard, a product of Timothy's vision, was not merely a tool for overcoming the snow. It was a symbol of man's ability to adapt, to respect the boundaries of the natural world while seeking harmony within it. With a deep sense of respect, Wrangler and Timothy lowered their gazes, acknowledging the presence of Bigfoot as a sign of the mountain's spirit, a reminder that their journey was not just about reaching the isolated communities, but about understanding the deeper connections that bound all life together. In that moment of mutual recognition, Bigfoot turned, disappearing into the mist, leaving behind a profound silence that spoke volumes. The encounter with Bigfoot became a pivotal part of their journey, a story that Wrangler shared with each community they visited, using it to illustrate the teachings of chapter 13 from the Gospel of Mark. He spoke of the importance of being watchful, of recognizing the signs and wonders that guide our paths, and of the need for readiness in the face of the unknown. As Wrangler and Timothy continued their mission, gliding over the snowfields on their snowboards, they carried with them a deeper understanding of the land and its guardians. They spoke of vigilance not just in the face of danger, but in the stewardship of the earth, of preparing not just for the winters of the world, but for the winters of the soul, and of the unity required to face the challenges of the wilderness and of life itself. Their message spread, weaving through the communities of the Cascades like the threads of a great tapestry, drawing people closer in a shared bond of faith, resilience, and respect for the mysteries of the wild. The story of their encounter with Bigfoot, the guardian of the mountains, became a legend, a reminder of the balance between man and nature, and of the lessons that lie waiting in the heart of the wilderness for those brave enough to seek them. Chapter 13, through the tale of Wrangler, Timothy, and their visionary journey across the snow-covered Cascades, encapsulates the essence of vigilance, innovation, and the eternal quest for understanding, set against the backdrop of the Gospel of Mark. It is a story of the Wild West, yet it speaks to universal truth, to the courage to face the unknown, and to the faith that guides us through the winters of our lives. Chapter 14. In the untamed heart of the Pacific Northwest, where the earth tells tales as ancient as time itself, the saga of Chapter 14 unfolds, marking a journey of faith, protection, and the sacred sharing of stories. Wrangler, guided by a divine mission, traverses the rugged expanse of the Pacific Crest Trail, with Kinja, an Indian warrior of unmatched prowess and loyalty, by his side. This chapter is imbued with the adventurous spirit of Louis de Lammer, capturing a narrative rich in wisdom, camaraderie, and the quest for understanding across cultures. Kinja, whose name was whispered with respect across the lands, was not just a protector, he was a bridge between worlds. His presence alongside Wrangler and his disciples ensured their safety as they ventured into territories where few dared to tread. But more than that, Kinja brought with him the wisdom of his people, sharing stories of the land that stretched beyond the horizon, where the volcanoes stood as sentinels of the earth's fiery heart. As they journeyed from town to town, tribe to tribe, Wrangler's message of love, forgiveness, and unity resonated deeply, finding a harmonious echo in the tales of creation and existence that Kinja shared. The stories of how the volcanoes were formed, not as mere geological happenstances, but as acts of the divine, weaving the fabric of the earth with fire and ash, captivated the minds and spirits of all who listened. One evening, under the canopy of stars that stretched endlessly across the sky, Kinja spoke of Mount Hood, its towering presence a testament to the powerful forces that shaped the world. He told of Wyeast, the proud and fiery spirit whose heart burned with a passion that mirrored the molten core of the earth itself. The tale spoke of love, rivalry, and reconciliation, themes that mirrored the complexities of the human heart and the teachings Wrangler sought to impart. Wrangler, with his keen insight, drew parallels between Kinja's stories and the lessons of chapter 14 from the Gospel of Mark. He spoke of the Last Supper, a moment of profound connection and impending betrayal, reflecting on the importance of faithfulness and the strength found in unity. Just as the disciples gathered around Jesus, sharing in the bread and wine, the people of the Pacific Northwest gathered around the fire, sharing in the stories and wisdom that bound them to each other and to the land. As the journey continued, the group faced challenges that tested their resolve and faith. Yet in every town and tribe they visited, the presence of Kinja and the protection he offered allowed Wrangler to spread his message without fear. The warrior's prowess was matched only by his deep understanding of the spiritual connections that intertwined all living things, a belief that resonated with Wrangler's teachings of compassion and community. Chapter 15. In the shadow of the Cascade Mountains, where the whispers of the past are carried on the wind, and the land tells stories of a time when nature reigned supreme, there lived a logger named Robertson. Known far and wide for his skill with a chainsaw, a tool as vital to the settlers as the guns on their hips, Robertson was a figure of legend. A man whose hands could shape the wilderness itself. The frontier was a land of untold beauty and danger, where avalanches roared like thunder and volcanoes slumbered like giants beneath the earth. It was here, among the towering pines and the ancient spirits of the land, that Wrangler and his followers found themselves in need of aid. The winter had been harsh, the snows deep, and the wood for warmth and shelter scarce. Enter Robertson, a man whose reputation preceded him, his chainsaw roaring in harmony with the howl of the wind through the trees. To Wrangler, Robertson was more than a logger. He was a lifeline in the unforgiving grip of winter. With a nod of understanding and a handshake that spoke volumes, Robertson set to work, his chainsaw cutting through the frozen silence, providing not just firewood but hope. The partnership between Wrangler and Robertson was one of mutual respect. Robertson, with his rugged exterior and heart of gold, found kinship in Wrangler's mission, his teachings of faith, resilience, and the importance of community resonating with the logger's own beliefs. Together, They stood as pillars of strength in a world where the line between survival and despair was as thin as the edge of a chainsaw blade. Their story, however, was not without its trials. The land, for all its beauty, held dangers that lurked in the shadow of the mountains. Avalanches, set loose by the slightest whisper of nature's breath, threatened to bury the hopes of the settlers under a blanket of snow and ice. Volcanoes, their peaks shrouded in mystery, rumbled with the promise of fire and ash, a reminder of the earth's raw power. Yet it was in the face of these challenges that the true spirit of the frontier shone brightest. Robertson, with his chainsaw, became a force of nature himself, clearing paths through the snow, felling trees to create shelters, and standing alongside Wrangler as a guardian of the people. His deeds became the stuff of legend, tales told around crackling fires, of the man who could run a chainsaw faster than any, whose blade was a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. The legend of Robertson reached even the Native Americans, who still roamed the land, their stories and traditions woven into the fabric of the mountains. They saw in him a warrior of the woods, a man whose respect for the land mirrored their own. In time, a bond formed, one of mutual respect and shared purpose, as Robertson and Wrangler worked alongside the native peoples, learning from them, sharing with them, and in turn, teaching the gospel of unity and respect for all creation. As the seasons changed, from the harshness of winter to the promise of spring, the legacy of Robertson and Wrangler endured. Their journey, a testament to the power of faith, the strength of the human spirit, and the unbreakable bonds of community, became a chapter in the gospel of the Cascades, a story of salvation not just of the soul, but of the body and the land. In this reimagined chapter 15, inspired by the Gospel of Mark and the tales of Louis Alamar, the Wild West comes alive with the sound of chainsaws, the roar of avalanches, and the rumble of volcanoes. It is a story of adventure, of heroes born from the wilderness, of legends carved not in stone, but in the living heart of the frontier. Here Robertson stands tall, a figure of strength and resilience, a man who, with Wrangler, faced the trials of the wilderness and emerged not just as survivors, but as saviors. Chapter 16. As the first light of dawn crept over the rugged peaks of the Cascade Mountains, Wrangler and his band of followers Carhart, Strauss, Levi, Toughskin, Kinjaw, Maria, Robertson, and Three-Fingered Jack gathered around the remains of their campfire, the embers of the night's revelations still warm in their hearts. The arrival of the alien, a celestial messenger bearing the gift of an electric guitar, marked a turning point not just in their journey, but in the very fabric of their reality. This was no ordinary morning. It was the dawn of a new era. The alien, with wisdom that spanned the stars, began to weave a tale that mirrored the prophetic visions of 2112. By Rush, a saga of oppression, a lone hero's discovery, and the transformative power of music. Wrangler, now holding the electric guitar, felt a connection to the instrument that was almost spiritual in nature. It was as if the guitar was a divine tool, meant to unlock something profound within him and his followers. The alien spoke of a distant future, a world ruled by the priests of the temples of Syrinx, where individuality and creativity were suppressed for the sake of order and conformity. Yet in that world, a young man discovered a guitar much like Wrangler now held, and through it, the lost art of music. This discovery became a beacon of hope, a catalyst for change, challenging the status quo and igniting a spark of rebellion. As Wrangler listened, he saw the parallels between the aliens' story and their own mission. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 16 speaks of resurrection, of spreading the word to all corners of the earth, of belief and salvation. Wrangler realized that their journey too was about resurrection, not just of the body, but of the spirit of hope and of the unyielding power of faith. Inspired by this revelation, Wrangler and his followers, with the alien by their side, set out to spread their newfound gospel of music and freedom. Blood Wine, their band, became more than a group of musicians. They were messengers, carrying the dual teachings of the gospel and the story of 2112 across the frontier. Their music, a blend of heavy metal's raw energy and the soul-stirring depths of spiritual hymns, resonated with people from all walks of life. Settlers who had never heard an electric guitar were mesmerized by its sound, and the Native Americans, recognizing the sacredness of the instrument's voice, saw it as a bridge between the old ways and the new. As Blood Wine traveled from town to town, their concerts became gatherings of unity and resistance against the forces that sought to divide and conquer. The message was clear. Like the hero of 2112, each person had the power to challenge the darkness, to embrace their individuality, and to celebrate the light of creativity and faith. Yet, the journey was not without its trials. The frontier, with its avalanches and rumbling volcanoes, was a constant reminder of nature's dominion over man. But it was in these challenges that the band found their strength, their music a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The climax of their journey came in a valley shadowed by Mount Hood, where the largest gathering yet had come to hear Blood Wine play, as Wrangler strummed the first chords of their anthem, a song that spoke of freedom, faith, and the eternal battle against oppression. The sky above them seemed to open, the stars aligning in a celestial symphony of light and color. In that moment, the alien, his mission fulfilled, nodded to Wrangler, a silent farewell that spoke volumes. As he departed, ascending into the heavens from whence he came, Wrangler knew that their story was far from over. It was a beginning, a call to arms for all who heard their music to rise, to believe, and to fight for a world where freedom and faith reigned supreme.